Alright, YouTube. For those who don't know, I listen to the Buck Sexton radio show. And on the episode entitled Make America Sick Again, Buck Sexton had a guest. I think it was this episode. I could be wrong. I have to go listen to it. But he had a guest on. It was John something. I can't remember the name. I am going to go look it up because I want to replay it. But his guest said something that confirmed my suspicions. I was able to ascertain that Russia hacking the US is in fact a false flag. And why do I say this? Because John, whatever his last name is, told Buck Sexton that the reason we know, we being the US government, the reason we know it was Russia is because they willingly and knowingly left evidence behind that it was them who did it. So let's dissect this. Let's really dissect this here. So Russia willingly and knowingly left behind evidence, left behind cyber material that pinpointed them as the ones responsible for hacking the DNC, among other hacking activities. Yet, when they brought it up to Russia, when this started to be dispersed in the media quite rapidly, Putin denied it, and all of Russia denied it. So, why would they contradict each other? Why would they willingly show evidence, leave evidence behind indicating their responsibility in the attacks, but then publicly say it wasn't them? What game would they be playing? The answer? They wouldn't be playing a game. There is no point you would leave evidence out to be seen, then deny it when you are accused of leaving evidence, accused of hacking. And it seems like the CIA or Obama is extrapolating this evidence of Russia being involved strictly based on this scenario. It doesn't make sense. If you're going to hack someone, you're going to hide your true intentions. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that Russia was responsible for the hacking, and their main point was to get Donald Trump elected. First, this becomes an issue because Putin would rather have Hillary. Why? Because it is highly likely that Putin has her 30,000 missing emails, along with many, many other world countries. Her account was less secure than the Gmail account. There's no secret. He could blackmail her. He could blackmail Hillary to use her material against her. But back to the original point now. If Russia was involved with hacking, if they were involved to be detrimental to the Hillary Clinton campaign so they can help Donald Trump win the presidency, why? Why would they knowingly leave evidence behind? It doesn't make sense. It does not make sense. They wouldn't. Because as soon as they do that, they know that will question the authenticity of the election. That will question the authenticity of Donald Trump's victory. And it's fairly obvious to say, and I think Putin knows this, that the mainstream media is extremely partial when it comes to Hillary. They are incredibly biased. He knows if it was him and his country, his intelligence services that hacked the US, that it would be imperative to hide the evidence that they were responsible for the attacks. He knows this. So why would he willingly do it? And it all comes back to the same answer. He wouldn't. This is a false flag. This is statism. Statism. JFK was against the CIA. He was against the CIA, especially when they were trying to manipulate him by fooling him. They hoodwinked him into thinking that Cuba was attacking America so they could garner support from the president to kill Castro, essentially. It's amazing that people like Lindsey Graham, neocons and neoliberals in Congress, are considering this an act of war from Russia when we do it all the time. We have hacked hundreds of world elections. We have staged elections. We have tried assassinating Castro. We have assassinated people over the years. If Russia is evil and they need to be punished for this alleged hacking attempt, then what abysmal punishment should the US receive for all of its transgressions? What should happen to the so called best country on earth when we are dictating governmental policies overseas, when we are killing people back in the day, when we are hacking, it we should be with war with France if that's the case. But it all comes back to a false flag. False flag to delegitimize Donald Trump's victory, to create more conflict between the US and Russia, to garner public support so we could then increase our diplomatic sanctions, economic sanctions, all on Russia, so we could remain in this perennial war. They want perennial war, everlasting war. They want Cold War with Russia. Why? Why? Money, power, influence, ambition, you name it. There are dozens, hundreds of reasons. But Trump will approach this differently. Trump already threw the monkey wrench. I forgot how the saying goes. Trump already shook things up a bit. He already nominated someone as Secretary of State who has businesses all over the world, and instead of creating a hostile environment with other countries' leaders, he wants to create peace and tranquility. He wants to work together instead of being divisive. He wants inclusion, and they can't handle that. And they can't handle that, and they can't understand that. How? Why? Why should the U.S. play nice with Russia when we can have war? When we could increase the billions and trillions of dollars of money that contractors use, defense contractors, so we can purchase new weapons from them, so we can purchase new types of warfare from them. At the same time, their lobbyists and their representatives pay us, the people in Congress, to vote on these things. If we increase a budget bill for more military spending so we can initiate these wars overseas, those same defense contractors who received an added bonus, an added business bonus from the U.S. Congress, can then pay them back with cash, can pay them back with influence. They can lobby them. That's why Congress needs to be changed. We have to drain the swamp. I'm going to do a video next, not on this one though, with Ted Cruz introducing legislation for term limits. We'll get that in a second, next video here. But I want to keep on with this now. This John guy in the Buck Sexton show. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. He is trying to manipulate. Maybe not manipulate, it's a bad word for it. He is so dumb. How can you believe that it's that clear and simple that, well, we know Russia did it because we have evidence now that Russia left evidence behind. People have been doing that for years, decades, centuries. It's called a false flag. You want to manipulate either your people or another country into thinking that someone else was responsible for the act you did. This isn't nothing new. This isn't nothing crazy. My next video I'm going to do, that besides the Ted Cruz one, of course, is going to be either 5 or 6 things, 5 evil things the U.S. government has done to its people. And you are going to hear some stuff in there. I already know a few of them. You're going to hear some stuff in there that has been declassified, that the CIA and other people in the intelligence community have done. And it's going to blow you away. The audacity of what they did to their own people. Here's a teaser of it. Operation Big Itch. People from the Joint Chiefs of Staff wanted to test out biological warfare. So what they did, they infected 1,000 mosquitoes with, it was a fever, cholera fever, something like that, yellow fever, I don't know. And they let them go in a southern state, I think Louisiana, to see what the public reaction would be, to see who would be killed, and if they could garner support to invade Cuba, to eliminate Castro. Now think about that. You're attacking your own people to see how they react, and you're blaming it on Cuba. So, you do something that's against the public's health, the public welfare, and then you blame it on another country. Does that sound familiar? I think the problem with my thought here, I will go over it. I think Trump needs to completely restructure the intelligence services. However, if he were to do so, he would face extreme opposition. Why? Because they would be claiming, they would be following under the illusion that Trump is restructuring these organizations strictly so he can set up his own people to eventually convert the US into a fascist country. If he can eliminate those who oppose his views and policies and instead hire people who believe in him and want him to be a leader forever, then he can better take over the country, and that will be pushed by the mainstream media like crazy. You will go insane how often that would be discussed if Trump was to restructure the intelligence services. However, like JFK wanted to do with the CIA, I think it's imperative. I think it's imperative that Donald Trump does so. He has to do it. I hope Trump's policies will be similar, will be an analogous to JFK's political ideologies. JFK was a true patriot against the Federal Reserve, against intelligence corruption, against statism, against false flags. He was against, oh yeah, back to that, Operation Big Itch. JFK, when he found out, he was pissed and he canceled the program. JFK cared about the people. There are evil people in this world, and sadly, there are evil people in the U.S. government. And for those who are progressive, for those who are liberal, for those who are anti-Trump, just because the mainstream media says something doesn't make it mean it's true. The Washington Post is not a credible source. So when the Washington Post says Russia hacked the U.S., that is not fact. The Washington Post got information from an anonymous source who doesn't want to be named. Well, I could call my local news agency and said, frickin' Russia put anthrax in my toilet. Would that make it true? Remember, if anything bad happens to you, the Russians did it. The Russians did it. Stay tuned for the next video on Ted Cruz introducing legislation regarding term limits. And I'm done.